Welcome back to the Balancing Act podcast. I'm Andy Temte. On the Balancing Act, we talk to business leaders and industry experts to explore the balancing acts we play in our professional lives and learn about the events that put rocket boosters behind their career success. Today, we have Terry Cowgill joining us live in the studio. The crowd goes wild. Terry owns Badger Smiles Dentistry, is a former Oktoberfest USA Festmaster, which for those of you that are not from La Crosse, that's actually a really big deal. And the most important thing is he sits on the board of Haven for Special People. So we're going to be focused there primarily today. We might get to a little dentistry advice for aspiring dentists. But Terry, thank you for coming into the studio.
Well, thank you. And I do have to clarify, once a Festmaster, always a Festmaster.
Yes, it's not a former thing.
Exactly.
So exactly. You it's like they keep pulling me back in.
Exactly. No, I mean, it is, like you said, it is a tremendous thing to be a part of. And I mean, you've been a huge part of it forever, so.
Yeah, but I've made a very conscious choice to be on the rock and roll and star. Kind of I'm involved, but not directly.
I wear the feather.
Yeah.
You have the microphone.
Yeah, you wear the feather.
Yes.
Well, Terry, I ask all my guests this question. Give us the elevator pitch of your story.
Grew up in Caledonia, which is about half an hour from here, small town. My dad was a dentist, and I was just kind of naturally drawn to that, especially the small business aspect of it. You get to be your own boss, do dentistry, which, obviously is a great service to people. And I explored a couple other things, but I just kind of always went back to dentistry. And so I did my undergrad work at St. John's University, went to dental school at the University of Minnesota.
Sure.
I actually went back. I thought I'd probably work in Caledonia. Worked with my dad for a little bit. Absolutely loved that. He and I mean, we think the same. But then I just realized I wanted to live in a bigger town. So I came over here to La Crosse on Alaska.
So you came to the big city of La Crosse.
Big city, exactly.
Our listeners from New York City are like, yeah, we fly over that all the time on our way to LA.
There's stoplights over here.
Right.
This is the big city. Yeah. So, and then started my practice in 1996 and been going ever since. So.
That's awesome. I used to get ribbed all the time when I would get on a call with somebody from Florida or Fort Lauderdale or New York City or wherever. And I'd say, the traffic was terrible getting into the office today. And the joke was, you got stuck behind that one car.
Yeah. But, don't you catch yourself? You do get upset when there's a red light. You're like, come on. It's like...
Yes, for our listeners who live in big cities, there are still traffic woes even in small towns.
Yes, but we won't complain, right?
We will not complain. I also ask all my guests the rocket booster question. What's that defining moment that you can look back on and say that really, this event really put rocket boosters behind my career?
Well, I would say it's 100% my dad's influence on me. I don't know if it's a genetic thing or what, but I had that natural inclination like he did to obviously do dentistry, but then do it as a small business with a small business feel to it.
Sure.
So it's the take care of people first. You don't focus on the money. That'll happen. Don't worry. And that's true. And so those are the principles that I wanted to practice dentistry with. And so, and for me, it was always, I'm going to have my own practice. I mean, I wanted to do it my way. And so I did it. And luckily I did well at it. It went pretty well. Yeah. And my wife's a dentist. And so that worked out very well too. So.
What's it like to have two dentists in the same household?
Everybody asks that question. And like, how can you work together? But it works out extremely well. Being dentists, okay? So, if one of us was the dentist and the other one was the assistant, we had to, sit chair side together. Yeah, that might get a little dicey, but you're kind of doing your own thing.
Who tells the kids to brush their teeth?
Not me.
you know your place.
Yeah, we're not the best at that either, no, working together has been great. And for us, we did it as, I kind of ran the business. That was my interest. And Shelley was the mom, and, her primary focus was the kids and home. And she, and then with the son with special needs, that becomes a huge focus in our lives.
Sure.
And so it worked out fantastic. It really couldn't have worked any better. And, we were able to work and provide that way. And she was able to more or less be a stay-at-home mom for the times she needed to be. And we were very fortunate that way.
Yeah. Well, that's what we're here to talk about, is helping folks with special needs. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, Terry is on the board of Haven for Special People. What's the organization's mission, and why did it get founded?
The mission, the mission came out of a need. And maybe I'll back up. The way it started was parents like myself. Now, my son is 23. And I came across this place called Prairie House, and it's a mixed living apartment complex in New Glarus, Wisconsin, which is about a couple hours from here.
Yeah.
And I heard about it, and it's a mixed, so there's half disabled people, half non-disabled people living together, all age ranges and income levels as well. And it's been extremely successful. It's been around maybe 4 or 5 years now, and thought, that's perfect. We got to do something like that here. And I'm not kidding you. So I reached out to, her name's Mary Ann that runs that place. And I said, I'd like to get some information. I'd love to do something like that around here. And she's like, oh, do you happen to know Rick and Julie Diermeyer? And I'm like, oh, you mean the people that live up the street? And it was like, and just coincidentally, they had been talking to her and a couple other parents, and all at the same time. And so we got together, and we all just have this same focus and same goal, because our kids are all getting to be adults now. And so, are they going to live with us forever?
Right.
Well, we kind of thought so. We always referred to it as forever nesters, not empty nesters, but forever nesters.
Sure.
And we thought, that's really not fair to him, my son. It's not fair to us either, as parents. And so we wanted to look for alternatives. And then, so when this came about and the parent group got together, and we thought, this is a tremendous thing to look into doing. So we kind of formed our group and came up with a kind of a mission of, inclusive living. So it'd be, adults, differing abilities. So everybody from wheelchairs to autistic adults, but then mixed in with, able-bodied people, and again, the whole income spectrum. So some income-based housing, and it's going to be about 70 units. And we thought that'd be a good size, and then you're thinking locations, and, La Crosse would be a great spot for it. But, our group, we were just a mix, I always kind of call this a motley group of adults, because we had some parents, we had just community members, and people that have been involved in the special needs community. And, we're not developers, we don't know how this works. So then we got together with Cooley Cap that does housing in the area, and then Gerard Corporation, they're the developers. They know how to build buildings, and that kind of thing. And oh my God, we told them their idea, and they just loved it.
Yeah.
From the first second we talked to them about it, and they're like, "This would be a tremendous thing. Let's do this."
So Haven for Special People is the umbrella organization that is then going to build this project. Mm-hmm. And my understanding, it's Haven on Main.
Yep.
And right downtown La Crosse, Wisconsin. Can you talk to us a little bit about the project specifically? When you expect to break ground? When you expect the project to be complete?
Yep. So when we started talking with the Gerard brothers, they knew of a spot in La Crosse. It's on between 9th, 10th, and it's on Main Street. And it's close to parks. It's close to downtown. It's close to the YMCA. It's close to University of Wisconsin La Crosse, TC. Yep. It's central. It's a great spot. And the place we found, the Gerards closed on the property at the end of October, I believe. So that's done. The existing building is quite old. That's called the Pink Palace. I grew up in downtown La Crosse, and
so that building, I'm unabashedly 61 years old, and I lived downtown from 0 to 12 years old.
Okay,
and that the place you're talking about was just outside of the radius that my parents allowed me to wander in, but everybody knew that building, that area by the Episcopal, just east of the Episcopal.
In fact, it was owned, the family name was Warnicki.
Yeah.
And one of the first people we talked to about this was Nancy Warnicki, who was the daughter. And we told her about the project, and she loved it. And she was actually one of their first donors to the project. So she's 100% on board, which is great to kind of have the family blessing on that.
So what kind of support are you getting from the folks in New Glarus? And for our listeners who aren't from Wisconsin, New Glarus is famous for Spotted Cow beer, one of the best farmhouse. I believe it's classified as unfiltered farmhouse ale, but people literally buy cases.
Yeah.
Take them on the airplane with them back to wherever they go. So what's the ongoing relationship with the folks in New Glarus?
Well, Mary Ann's just kind of been a good resource for us. And what's been interesting is we've done in about 2 years what it took them 5 years to get done.
Right.
As far as just flushing out everything. And we were just so lucky to cross paths with Cooley Cap and Gerard's, because they know how to get stuff done. And that whole world of developing, I'm a dentist. I don't know that stuff at all. And it's really been interesting learning about all that stuff, but they've made it happen. And, you got to go through all the city planning stuff. They're tough to deal with. Probably know that. Yeah. But it's just been so universally embraced by the community, the neighbors. We've had meetings with the neighborhood people, and, there's some concerns, people question, parking and stuff like that. We've got all that stuff kind of figured out.
Yeah.
And it's fun to be a part of a project that everybody loves. I mean, it's neat.
So this sounds like something that we should have more of across the United States. There's these two projects, New Glarus, now here in La Crosse. It sounds like one of the secret ingredients to success is find somebody else who's paved the way. You took 5 years down to 2. And surround yourselves with people who, that actually know that can complement your skills. And this is a business lesson that anyone can learn from, right? What other suggestions might you have for somebody who's listening to this somewhere in Kentucky and going, wow, this is a really cool idea. How can we get started?
Honestly, I think even just a simple Google search, you'd probably find some places. We were lucky enough to find our place so close to kind of copy from. But then, as we get our process going, because we're shooting to break ground this spring, and we'll post all of our progress. We have a website, havenforspecialpeople.org. And, so we'll post the progress, and, people are always free to ask us questions, send emails. We can tell you how we did it. Maybe what's worked well, what hasn't. Quite frankly, things have worked really well for us so far, knock on wood. But, and I think a lot of questions too might be, so what makes this building different than just an apartment building?
Right.
And, we have just things like security, and which all buildings do nowadays, but like a good centralized point for drop-offs and pickups, because a lot of the disabled people probably aren't going to drive. And so a nice, covered porch, we can drive up, not get rained on or snowed on.
Right.
That kind of thing. Community kitchen type party event area. might have a second area where it's less noisy, but kind of a smaller version of it, so they can still participate without being in the crowds, that kind of thing. A special room, we're going to do this for sure, where you can actually get your hair cut. So it's just like a barber chair type of setup. A hairdresser will come in and, maybe see a couple clients in that room by themselves type of thing, without the whole crowds to deal with. Just subtle things that people with, sensory issues, mobility issues, things will just be adapted for that. Just make it more conducive. And the biggest thing is to have everybody be together. You might live next door, your apartment might be next door to somebody with disabilities, or, a grandma or something. And, grandma's grandkids come over and they get to meet Joe next door, who's, have some sort of disability. You learn from each other, and that's one of those hidden things that you don't think about, as a benefit to a project like this. And it's like, everybody will grow. And, I guarantee when this is done, you'll know somebody that lives there, and you'll talk to them, and you go visit them, and you'll meet somebody else, and it just broadens horizons. It's neat.
It's a great example of the benefit that we can all have when we're around folks who don't look like us, don't talk like us, and that that diversity fuels imagination. It fuels creativity. It fuels understanding, and I love that. That purposeful sense of community that you're trying to build.
Yep.
So, Terry, we're going to take a really short break, and we'll be right back to talk about Haven for Special People.
Great.
Awesome. Hey, it's Andy here. I've got a new podcast I'd like to introduce you to, The Saturday Morning Muse. Start your weekend with me by exploring topics that span leadership, business management, education, and other musings that are designed to support your journey of personal and professional continuous improvement. Subscribe today on your favorite podcast platform. And we're back with Terry Cowgill talking about independent housing for individuals with disabilities. So, Terry, let's suppose that I like to run thought experiments on the show. So let's suppose that you have the parents or guardian of an individual with physical or mental challenges, who's getting close to reaching the age of majority, where many of the safety nets start to fall away. And they're grappling with this balancing act of providing continuing care and wanting their child to live on their own and experience life, the richness of life, and become more self-sufficient. What's the most important piece of advice that you can give to these parents?
One would be to try to plan early, which is hard. It's easy to say, but it's hard to do because you're just so inundated with the today,
Yeah.
And so, you're getting through the school age years, and then once that's done, then it's like, what do we do? I don't know, and some are able to join the workforce, and the La Crosse area's got great resources for that, like Aptiv, VARC, ORC, Quick Trip's great too. So if they can get jobs, and some that can't, but, once they hit 18, they still continue to grow, and so you find, in one sense, you're thinking, they're not kids, they're not going to learn anymore, but they're still going to continue to learn.
Yeah.
And you want to put them in an environment where they will still learn, and it's not going to be a school setting anymore, but things like a year or so ago, my son started a program called Spellers, and because he's nonverbal, but he can communicate by pointing to a letterboard and spell things out.
Oh, cool.
And math became a little part of that. So, and we'd read these math questions to him, and he could come up with the answers immediately without looking at anything. And I'm talking about word problems that I get into it, and in the second sentence, your head's spinning.
Right.
And he can figure this stuff out, and he's never wrong. And you won't even think he's paying attention. He's just bouncing all over.
Right.
And he points to the answer and we're like, oh my God, and it's just, so the point is they keep learning, and if we didn't explore that opportunity, we wouldn't know that he could do this,
Right.
And what else can he do? I don't know. But these kids I call them kids. Anybody younger than me is a kid, right?
Anybody younger than 40 is a kid. I'm sorry.
So I call them kids, even though they're adults. But yeah, but the point is they'll continue to learn, and they need opportunities. And this housing project, Haven on Main, will foster that, because he's not going to learn as much staying in a room in our house, which we kind of thought that would be the plan, we'd be forever nesters, but that's not fair to him. And so we want a place like this where he can be amongst a lot of people, share experiences, for a long time.
Yeah. So Terry, that advice to be proactive is absolutely fantastic. It's simple, but like you say, all parents get caught in the today, and then all of a sudden these big events creep up on us, graduations, et cetera. So be thoughtful, be proactive, be looking in the future. What have we missed in our conversation so far about Haven for Special People? What specifically should everybody know about?
Well, like with our group, for other people in other areas, if you're thinking, gosh, this is a great idea, I wish we had that where we live, I'm telling you, you just start talking to the parents, and, especially ones that have kids around their same age, and you'll get people that have the same, I want to do that too. And then you'll be like, okay, well, how do we make something happen? And you just reach out, and maybe our group can kind of help say, oh, why don't you talk to this agency or something? And it'll happen, and that's how we did it. And it's, one neat, the way our group came together, we've got parents, special education educators, one parent's an electrician, one is a retired military railroad worker, retired businessman, a nurse, lady that's done like adaptive water skiing programs, adaptive show choir stuff. And then a dentist, it's just bizarre, but it's like what made us all come together. And Rick gave us the term providence,
sure,
which is, like a divine way of getting people together and making something happen. And that can happen, for other people too. Yeah.
One of my key mentors always said, if you're not moving, you're standing still. And, so this is not, something like this is not going to just magically happen.
Yeah.
You guys started moving, you started asking questions, you started learning and growing.
If I wouldn't have sent an email or a phone call, I forget which I did, to Marianne, I wouldn't be a part of this group. It just, and you have to remember, it doesn't all fall on one person. It's not one person that's going to get this done.
Yeah.
Even if you're just the spark that gets the fire going with other people, that's huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
All right, let's turn to dentistry really, really quickly. Again, thought experiment. You've had a career as a successful dentist. Suppose you have a high school kid, a junior, sophomore in high school, sitting in front of you right now, who's kind of thinking that dentistry might be for them. What advice do you have for them?
It's a great career. It's one of the few where you can still be kind of an independent business owner and do healthcare. That's changed a lot in the last 10 years, I would say. Things like private equity has gotten involved in dentistry and a lot of other things too. Unfortunately, it's quite expensive now. The average dental student's graduating with about $500,000 in debt.
Wow.
Which it's not even comparable to back in my day. So there are a lot of different challenges. The career itself is still great. It's actually, I think they surpassed the 50% female threshold for graduates now. It's a great career. You can be a mom and a dentist at the same time. You can balance that quite well. So there have been a lot of changes, but I would encourage, if I'd do it all over again, I'd do it in a heartbeat. And I would, there's one thing I would change. Other than that, I wouldn't change a thing.
Cool. Yeah. So one of the things I'm hearing small business. So courses in entrepreneurship, small business management, a lot what my experience, especially with folks in the medical profession who might be thinking about, not a mainstream in-hospital, somebody else is running the business kind of a career, that they feel woefully underprepared. You had your father to guide you from a business acumen perspective, but so many people say, I want to be a dentist, and then they don't invest in the financial acumen, the business acumen that's really necessary to do it, and that's when they get themselves into trouble. Would you agree?
Totally, 100%. I mean, they don't teach the business stuff at all in dental school, and it's a shame. I mean, I get it. Dental schools to teach you how to be a dentist, but if you're going to be a dentist with a dental practice of your own, you got to learn the business part. I mean, for sure. And so where do you do that? How do you do that? That's the $1 million question. I was very fortunate with my dad. He gave me guiding principles. Right. I mean, he knew nothing about accounting. I know even less. And, but yet we're able, again, you hire the right people, you get mentors that you learn from. That is probably the biggest challenge. So a lot of it, I think, comes down to almost natural, your mindset, and a lot of dentists are happy not wanting to run the business, and so that it's a nice blend, because you got those that do and they do it. Those that don't want to do it, they go work for, the other people, and happy as can be. So.
Sure. Awesome. Well, I've got 3 lightning round questions for you. Number 1 is, how would you define your personal purpose?
Oh,
why do you exist?
Why do I exist? To pull teeth. No, I mean, obviously being a parent, a husband and all that that's what we live for, and that's what keeps us going day to day. Professionally, you change directions throughout your career, which is a good thing too. And, but yeah, and now when we hit, the magic halfway mark of life, you start thinking about, how are you going to leave things behind, right. and with especially kids and special needs kid. And that's probably the most important thing right now.
Yeah. Very cool. So next, I put you into a very small time machine, very rudimentary. You can go back to an earlier version of yourself and send a very short message. What's the message, and what earlier version of yourself do you choose to send it to?
Well, I would go back about 5 years, maybe 6 years ago, and tell myself not to sell my practice. That blew up on us, but that would be the big change I would make. Yeah.
Well, when I ask this question, most folks go back to when they're 13 or 14.
Yeah. I was good with those days. I was a nerd.
Yeah, cool.
It was fun. I loved it. I loved growing up in Caledonia. College years were great. Dental school, I was one of the weird ones that liked it.
Yeah.
I mean, things were wonderful. Yeah.
So, last question, what are you doing right now to continuously improve, to grow, to learn? What are you working on?
Well, since we started a new dental practice a few months ago, that's been real eye-opening. I mean, the dental part, piece of cake. I joke that I could do that with my eyes closed, but I won't. But just all the little nuances of a small business again, recreating that and starting from scratch, it's a lot, and it makes me wonder, how did I do all this when I had little kids running around and, younger, more energy, that kind of thing.
We all ask ourselves.
Yeah. But it's been great because, in today's world with podcasts, I mean, that's what I listen to all the time, sure. I mean, and it's a great learning tool, so that's what I do for, to be inspired and educated and, my wife reads books all the time. And if I'm going to read something, it's to learn something.
Sure.
I don't read for fun, and so I always want to be learning. If I'm cleaning the garage, I'm learning something.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you and I are right there on the, I don't read for fun. I read what I need to and to learn. Yeah. And I like to listen.
And then when we want to chill, we just throw on a little Rush.
That's right.
And takes us to a great place.
That's right. And that's Rush, the band, Geddy Lee, Neil Peart, Alex Lifeson. Well, Terry, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today about Haven on Main. Thank you for educating us all there, and also a little education on the field of dentistry. Where can folks, you said the website for Haven on Main, maybe once again for our listeners?
Our group, havenforspecialpeople.org. And then there's also a Facebook page with that. And I'm not totally familiar with how all that works, but Haven for Special People, if you Google that, you'll find us. But yeah, thank you so much. I mean, I know you're interested in the project, and that means a lot to us. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you for being here, Terry.
Thank you.
All right. Well, my name is Andy Temte. This is the Balancing Act podcast. You can find us on all the major streaming services. Please like, subscribe, rate, and most importantly, share this impactful conversation with your friends and your colleagues. The show was produced by Nicholas Temte. We'll see you next time on the Balancing Act.